start on the pages are numbered from 1 to 6. Daf Nun Hey Amud Beis on the bottom. There's an arrow. Okay, good. Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Amar Rabbi Yochanan Ma'idich Si Vashrei Yodam Mefachet Tamid U'Maksheh Libo Yipil Bara. The Gemara starts the story of the Churban with the saying of Rabbi Yochanan that he says, what is the meaning of the pasuk that Ashrei Adam, lucky is a person who is always afraid, who always, Rashi says, he's always concerned to see what will come out of his actions. Doesn't mean a person has to always be paranoid, but it means a person should be aware and think about what the consequences of his actions will be. But somebody that hardens his heart and doesn't pay attention to what he's going to do, so yipel b'ra, he could fall through in a negative thing. So the pasuk is highlighting that it could be something that a person thinks is a kleinigkeit, is something small, but if he doesn't pay attention to the consequences that such an action could bring, so it could lead to something, a big disaster. And he says, Akamsu Bar Kamsu Chorev Yerushalayim. Yerushalayim was destroyed because of Kamsu Bar Kamsu. It started off looking like a small little fight, but it led to the Churban Beis HaMikdash. Atar Negel V'Tar Negel to Chorev Turmalka, the city of Turmalka, the area of Turmalka, Har HaMelech, which the Gemara will later discuss, was destroyed because of a hen and a rooster, Tar Negel and Tar Negel, something small. Ashaka Derispak Chorev Beita, the city of Beita was destroyed because of the wall of a woman's carriage. And the Gemara will explain each one of these three stories at length. The Gemara continues, Akamsa Bar Kamsa Chorev Yerushalayim. What was the story of Kamsa and Bar Kamsa? Dahu Gavra Derachim Kamsa Baldevavi Bar Kamsa. Was a certain individual who had a friend by the name of Kamsa, and he had an enemy by the name of Bar Kamsa. Avetsu Dasa, he made a meal. Amar Leil Kamsa, he told his attendant to invite Kamsa to the meal. Ozal Aisile Bar Kamsa, by mistake he brought Bar Kamsa. Asa, the Balabas, came to the meal. Ashkechei Tahavi Yosef, he saw Bar Kamsa was sitting there. Amar Lei, he tells him, Mechti, Ahu Gavra, Baal Devava, Ahu Gavru. He says, look, you're my enemy, my boy, what are you doing over here? Kum Puk, stand up and leave. Amar Lei, so he said, Hoil Vasoy, since I already came, I came by mistake, but I'm already here, don't embarrass me publicly. Shav can let me stay. And I'll pay you the money of what I'll eat and drink. Go to the next Talmud, on the page 2. Amar Leiloi, he told them, no, I don't agree, I want you to leave. Amar Leiloi, he said, I'll give you half of the entire amount, the expense of the party. Amar Leiloi, he said, no. Amar Leiloi, he said, I'm ready to pay you for the entire party, as long as you don't embarrass me publicly. Amar Leiloi, he told him, no, I can't let you stay. He took him by his hand, and he stood him up and he threw him out. Omar, so Bar Kamsa said, there were Chachamim, Talmidei Chachamim sitting at the party, and they didn't protest, they didn't stop him. So that means that the Chachamim didn't care about the fact that I was embarrassed. Let me go and I will go to the emperor in Rome and I will inform him, I'll master to him that the Yidden are rebelling against him. So Azal, he went, he went and he told the emperor that the Yidden rebelled against him. The Yidden were under the rulership of Rome at that time. They were under Rome. And he tells them that the Yidden are rebelling against you. So Amalei mi Yemar, he says, how could you prove it? Amalei, he said to him, Shadalu Kurbana, send the korban to the Beis HaMikdash. As Rashi points out, Goyim are also allowed to bring korbanos in the Beis HaMikdash. And he says, Chazi Simikarvin Le. Says, you'll see if they'll bring the korban. So Azal Shadar Biyad Egla Tilsa. So the emperor sent in Bar Kamsa's hand a Egla Tilsa, a fat calf, a choshev animal for a korban. Bahadi the Kaasi Shadar Beinuma Benifsva Sayim. As he was going with the animal, so he placed the mum in the animal either on the upper lip, and other people say he caused the animal to get a cataract in the eye. How could he cause the animal to get a cataract in the eye is a discussion. But Al Kapanim, he tried to make it happen. And what the reason why the Gemara highlights it was Dafka, one of these two women, is because it's a duchta, it's a type of blemish in the animal, the ledidon have a mumma, or ledidhu lav mumma. The halach is that if a goy wants to bring a carbon for the Eibishter, api halacha, he's allowed to build a mizbeach in his backyard and bring a carbon. And there's certain halachas that apply to such a carbon. The halachas that apply to such a carbon are the carbon is not allowed to have a blemish, but the types of blemishes that make such a carbon that a guy is bringing privately disqualified are not exactly the same as the laws of Mumin that apply to the carbonis in the Beis HaMikdash. If a guy brings a carbon in his own mizbech on the backyard, so if there's a mum on the upper lip or there's a cataract in the eye, it's not considered a mum for that purpose. So Mamela, he Davka chose to do such a mum to make such a blemish that the emperor wouldn't be able to understand that halachically it's a blemish. Because as far as he knows, Torah tells him that he's allowed to bring such an animal as a carbon to Eibishter elsewhere. Anyway, he comes to the Beis HaMikdash. So, Savar Rabbanan L'Keruvim Mishum Shloi Malchus, the Chachamim realized something funny over here, that there's a carbon that has a mum. But they were afraid that if they don't bring the carbon, so then they might cause a rift with the government, with the king. So they wanted to bring the carbon in order to keep on good terms with the emperor. Amrullah Rabschai ben Avkulas Yemru Balimum and Kreven Lagabim Mizbeach. Rabschai ben Avkulas said, if you'll do that, so people might assume they'll either bring a carbon that has such a blemish on the Mizbeach. So he was afraid that people might not understand that this was an exception to the rule, and therefore he didn't want them to bring the carbon. So Savar Lamiktalei the Leilez of Alema, so the Chachamim thought if they can't bring, if the other eights is that if they can't bring the carbon, let them kill Bar Kamsa. So he shouldn't go back to the emperor and say that they didn't bring his animal as a carbon. So Amrullah Rabschai said, Yoimru Matamum B'Kotshimi Harig. So Rabschai said, people are going to think that the halach is that somebody that makes a blemish in a carbon is chayav misa, deserves to be killed. So basically they didn't bring the carbon and they let him go. He went back to Rome and he proved to the emperor, he came back with the animal, he said, you see, they didn't bring it as a carbon. So the emperor got angry and he went and he made a siege on Yerushalayim. So Amar Rabbi Yochanan in the V'sanusay shel Rabbi Chai ben Avkulas achrivas peiteinu v'sarfes echaleinu v'lusanum yartzeinu. Rabbi Yochanan said that Rabbi ben Avkulas made a mistake over here. He was too, Rashi says, avlanusay. He didn't take a strong enough stand. He was too much tolerant of the situation, and he didn't want them to bring the carbon. He didn't want to kill him. So because of his anivus, because he didn't take a strong enough stand, that caused the Beis HaMikdash should be destroyed and for needing to go into Galus. Shadar Ilavayu Niran Kaisar. So the emperor sent Niran Kaisar to be the general, to be in charge of the siege on Yerushalayim. Kikaosi, when he came to Yerushalayim, he wanted to make some type of test, some type of siman, a sign, a omen from above, to see if the Eibishter will help him in his war, in what he's doing. So Shad Gira Lemizrach, so he made such a test, so to say. He shot an arrow towards Mizrach, towards east, and Asanafal Yerushalayim. It fell in Yerushalayim. Lemairav, he shot it in the opposite direction. Asanafal Yerushalayim. It also fell in Yerushalayim. Lar Baruchis Hashemayim, he shot an arrow to the north and the south as well. And again, in all four directions, Asanafal Yerushalayim. The arrow fell in Yerushalayim. So he realized already that Eibishter is showing him a sign that if he'll go and wage war in Yerushalayim, he'll be successful. But he wanted to know what's going to become, what will be his saf, what will be his end. So he saw a Yiddish boy coming out of Cheder. He told the child, he says, tell me the pasuk that the most recent pasuk that he learned in Cheder. So Amalei, so he brings him told him a pasuk that I'll take revenge from Edom, from the Romans, through the Yidden. Yidden will eventually take a revenge from the Romans. So Amar, so Niroin said, Kushabrichu boilich ruve beise, boilich purayode behu gavres. He said the Eibusha wants to destroy his house. He realized the Eibusha was showing him from one side. He saw that wherever he shot the arrow, it fell in Yerushalayim. It means the Eibusha will help him if he wants to destroy the Beis HaMikdash. But at the same time, he's going to be punished. The Eibusha wants to wipe his hands, so to say, on that person. In other words, he'll be the scapegoat. He'll be punished for it. So he decided that he doesn't want to be involved. So Arak, he ran away. Vazal v'yigayer, became a ger tzedek. V'nafik minei Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir, the famous Tana Rabbi Meir, came from Nirin Keser. Some people even say that it's shaykh that he was the son of Nirin Keser. So Nirin Keser went away. He ran away. So the emperor had to send another general. Shadrei Lovayu Aspasionus Keser. He sent Aspasionus Keser. So Asar Aspasionus came, Saralot Tlashni. He made a siege in Yerushalayim for 3 years. There were 3 rich people in Yerushalayim at that time. Nakdimi ben Gurion, ben Kalba Savua, ben Tzitzis HaKesses. These were their names. Nakdimi ben Gurion and ben Kalba Savua was Rabbi Kiva's father-in-law, and ben Tzitzis HaKesses. And the Gemara explains their names. Nakdimi ben Gurion, Nakdimoin ben Gurion was given that name. Nakdimoin comes from the word nakta, to pierce, that the sun pierced the clouds because of him. There's a story Rashi mentions, the Gemara says in Masechta Tainis, that the Yidden ones came to the Beis HaMikdash and there was no water to drink, and there was a Roman nobleman that had 18 springs, wells of water, and Nakdimoin ben Gurion told him that I want to give them to the Oilei Regel, to those people that came up to Yerushalayim, to the Beis HaMikdash. And if it won't rain by a certain date, they'll give you 12 measurements of silver. So, okay, there was a drought, it wasn't raining for a while, so the guy accepted the deal. It came the day that was the last day, the due date, the guy sends a message to Nakdimoin ben Gurion, pay me up. So he says, there's still time. I'll go upon him. It came in the afternoon. Nakdimoin ben Gurion went to the Beis HaMikdash. He davened. He said, I didn't do it for myself. I did it for the sake of the Yidden. A rain came and filled up the wells plus more. He had even more water than there was before. So Nakdimoin ben Gurion goes out of the Beis HaMikdash. He meets the guy, and the guy was thinking of telling him, pay me up. So Nakdimoin tells him, now you owe me money because there's extra water. So the guy says, okay, but he says, I still have a taina, I could still claim that the day already passed. It rained, it became cloudy, maybe the sun already set. So Nakdimoin ben Gurion went back into the Beis HaMikdash, he davened, and he came out, and the sun came through the clouds, the sun pierced the clouds. So his original name wasn't Nakdimoin, but they gave him the name Nakdimoin to mean that the sun pierced the clouds in his chus. Huh? His name was Bunny, okay. Ben Kalba Savua. Then the second rich person that the Gemara mentions, his name was Ben Kalba Savua. Shkala nichnas lebeisek shorov kikelev yotzek shu savea. Kalba Savua means a satisfied dog, meaning whoever went into his house as hungry as a dog. His expression, someone's very hungry, says as hungry as a dog, which doesn't eat so much sometimes. So he came out when he's fully satisfied. Ben Tzitzis HaKesses. Why was the Ben Tzitzis HaKesses given this name? So the Gemara says, so whenever he walked, they used to spread out, like not really a carpet, but they would spread out like Rashi says, different karim uksasis. They spread out woolen clothes, like woolen sheets, woolen blankets, or silk, clay milas, different interpretations what it means, like upon him. But he was very rich. He would never walk directly on the floor, and his tzitzis of his garments would always drag along these tapestries that he was walking on. The other people say the other people say that his name was Ben Tzitzis. That was his name. Why was he given the added title Akeses? Akeses means a chair, because when he would go to Rome, so he had a special chair that he would sit amongst the noblemen of Rome. It was considered someone prestigious, that he was given a special chair when he would go to see the emperor in Rome. So you had these three people, and the siege was going on for 3 years, and the effects of the siege were being felt very strong. So these three Gevirim, these three rich people, they said that they're ready to support the Yidden, that they're ready to feed the Jewish people that were in Yerushalayim. One said, I will feed the Yidden with wheat and barley. One said, I will give them wine, oil, and salt. One said, I will give them wood to use for fuel, to burn, to cook food with. The Chachamim praised that of all these three, the Chachamim praised the most, the one that was ready to donate wood for the Yidden. Rav Chisda would give all the keys that he had, his different storage houses, he would give to his attendant. He would trust him with the keys. Besides the key to the place where he kept wood for fire. Why? Because he said, Rav Chisda, Kalbo Dechiti, he says for one measurement of wheat you need 60 measurements of wood. Wood you need much more than the food that you eat. You need a lot of wood to cook the food, so that is the most important thing. So that's why he wouldn't give the key to that, he wouldn't trust the key with anyone. And similarly, in the time of Yerushalayim, the one that was ready to donate wood, the Chachamim considered the most generous out of all of them. So the Gemara says, they had enough food and oil and salt and wood that they're able to sustain the Yerushalayim in the siege for 21 years. But there was another problem that propped up. You had Biryonim, you had some, Rashi says, empty people that were eager for war, and they wanted to show the Romans that they're going to fight. So they wanted to force the Yidden to fight the Romans. So they had a different opinion than the Chachamim. The Chachamim wanted they should make peace with the Romans. They should try to, surrender, make a peace deal. But the Biryonim, these empty guys, they wanted to fight. The Chachamim said, let us go out and make peace. The Chachamim knew that b'derech hateva they're not going to be successful in fighting the Romans. They didn't let the Chachamim go out and make peace. So they said, these Biryonim, these war-hungry people, told the Chachamim, let us go and fight them. So the Chachamim said, no, you won't be. The Chachamim knew that b'derech hatava naturally they won't be able to win. So they decided they're going to try to force everyone to fight. So they decided that as long as there's food for people to eat, no one will be interested in fighting. But when the hunger kicks in, then they'll feel the urge to fight. So So they went and they burned down the storage houses of wheat and barley, and the hunger broke out in Yerushalayim. Marta Bas Baitos Asirosu Yerushalayim Havin. The Gemara brings a story to illustrate how bad the hunger was. The Gemara says one of the rich people of Yerushalayim was a woman by the name of Marta Bas Baitos. When the hunger started breaking, came on, and she sent her messenger to go buy flour, fine flour. He went to the marketplace. As the Ozal is dab, and the time he came there, all the fine flour was gone. He said there's no fine flour, but there's white bread, there's clean bread. So she said, okay, fine, so go get that for me. And the time he came back to the market, that was also gone. He said there's no more white bread, but there's black bread, there's coarse bread. So she told him, okay, go get that for me. At the time he came, he said, that's also sold out. He said, there's no more coarse bread, all there is barley flour. She said, okay, go buy it for me. At the time he got it, that was also sold out. So the Gemara says what happened, she wasn't wearing shoes and she was hungry, and she realized that every minute she's going to wait, she could lose out an opportunity to get food. So she So she went, she decided she's going to rush out to the marketplace. She knew every time she's going to send a messenger, he'll come back, before she knows there'll be nothing left. So she went out and to try to see if she could find something to eat, but she wasn't wearing shoes. So she walked into the tsoya, the feces, the junk that comes out of animals. And she died as a result. She was so rich and so, never, was always used to luxury, never touched something which, was so coarse that seeing that having her foot step right into it made her sick and she died. So Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said on her, there's a pasuk in the Teichacha that says that the woman amongst you that is raka, that she's very delicate and pampered, that she always, she's used to luxury, she never put her foot in the ground, that even she will suffer by the Churban Beis HaMikdash. So the Gemara now says another version of the Maisa by Marta Bas Paitos. Another opinion says that she found figs that Rab Tzaddik ate from, and she ate them. She ate them and she died. Why? The Gemara explains Rab Tzaddik Yosef Arboin Shnim B'Tanisa. The Lechra of Yerushalayim. Rab Tzaddik knew that there was a Gzeira 40 years before the Churban. The Chachamim already knew that there was a Gzeira that was decreed that the Beis HaMikdash would be destroyed. So for 40 years he fasted every day that the Beis HaMikdash that Yerushalayim should not be destroyed. Ki'av Ochel Mindi became so weak, his body became so, so shriveled up because of his fasting, that when he would eat something, you were able to see from his throat, you were able to see the food going down because he was so thin. He have a body when he would stop fasting, when he wanted to, start eating something, he stopped this series of fasting, wanted to eat something, so he wasn't able to eat real food because his stomach was already shrunk. So what did he eat? What would they bring him to eat? They would bring him figs. He would suck out the juice and throw it away. He wasn't able to eat the fig itself. He was only able to suck out the juice. So she ate some of those figs that Rab Tzaddik ate from, sucked out the juice from, and when she ate the figs, she felt the taste of Rab Tzaddik's sickness, how his body, he had the taste of whatever was in his body went into the fig, and she tasted that and sensed it, and she became sick as a result, and she died because she was so sensitive and delicate that eating these figs that Rab Tzaddik ate from made her disgusted, and she died. Says the Gemara, when she was passing away, she took out all her gold and silver and she threw it in the marketplace. She said, what do I need all this money for? This is the meaning of the pasuk. It says that when during the punishment, the Yidden will throw their gold, they'll throw their money in the streets. Basically, they'll say that it can't help them. The mother continues and says, Abba Sikra Reish Biryoni Yerushalayim Barach said Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Abba Sikra was the head of these Biryonim, of these war-hungry people, and he was Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. He was the Nasi of the Sanhedrin. He was his nephew. He was the son of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai's sister. So the Gemara says that Sholach Leitov B'tzina L'Gabay. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai sent him a message. I want to speak with you quietly. Abba Sikra wasn't allowed, could not allow himself to be seen visiting Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai asked him to come secretly with a meeting. So says the Gemara, he went to Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. So also he came. Amar Lei, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai tells him, Ad Eimas Avdisu Haki V'Katlisu Leila Alma B'Chafna. Said, until when are you going to be doing this? You're going to be behaving this way. You're causing everyone to die with hunger. It's not Seder. You can't do this and cause everyone to die. Amrlei Maya Iavid, the Amin Lumid says, what could I do? If I tell my men anything, they'll kill me. If I go against what they want, they'll kill me. Amrlei told him, so Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said, Chazili Takanta Lididi de Epuk. He says, see if there's some way you could figure out a plan for me to go out of the city. So maybe I could arrange at least a small salvation, something, try to get some type of hatzalah for the Yidden. So Abba Sikra told him like this. Amalei gave him a plan. So told him, he says, make believe you're sick, let out a rumor that you're sick, that you're getting very sick. And have people come and ask how you're doing, as if, you know, it's a halt thought that your mom is about to pass away. And then take something which smells very bad and put it next to you. And say that you died, and you'll have something smelling over there, so it'll take a smell as if it's a dead body. And you should have your students should go and carry you out. The only way to get out of the city was a person who was dead. Somebody that passed away, you weren't allowed to bury him in Yerushalayim. So these biryonim, these guys that were interested in war, they were guarding the gates. They didn't let anyone go out, besides someone that was dead. So he said, make believe you passed away, and have your Talmidim, have your students carry your bed, and you shouldn't have anyone else carrying you. And no one should feel that you don't weigh so heavy. People know that a live person weighs less than a dead person. So you only want your students who are aware of what's going on, that they should be carrying you. No one else should actually, that's not supposed to realize what's going on, should be carrying you. Okay, and what is it? Rabbi Yechon followed the plan. He gave out a rumor that he passed away. Rabbi Shua came on one side, Rabbi Shua came to another side, and they took him out, ready to take him out, as if they were about to bury him. And they came to the city gates. So the biryonim, these guys that were eager for war, they wanted to pierce Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai's body with a sword to make sure he's not dead. Amar lahu yemru rabban dokros. Abba Sikra says the Romans are watching what you're doing. They're going to say they pierced their own teacher. You know, it doesn't look very good. They wanted at least to push him. Maybe he'll scream. Maybe he's really alive. Amar lahu. So Abba Sikra told them yemru rabban dochafu. The Romans are watching this. They're going to say that they pushed their own teacher. So they opened the door, Nafak Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was able to go out. When he came, he left the city, and he went to the Roman camp, and he went to the general. And he came to Aspasionus. Amar Shlama loch Malka, Shlama loch Malka. He goes to Aspasionus, he says, peace upon you, king, peace upon you, king. Amar leim chayav strei katla. You see, so Aspasionus told him, you're chayav misa, you're deserving to die twice. Says, why chada lav malkana? He says, I'm not a king and you're calling me a king. You're playing a game with me. You're laughing at me. Vesu, second of all, if I'm really a king, why didn't he come to me until now? So Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai answers him, he tells him, he said, this that you say you're not a king, he says, you might not be a king now, but Ibra Malkat, but you're definitely going to become a king. If you weren't going to become a king, Yerushalayim would not be able to be given over into your hands. Even though Yerushalayim was not yet given over to his hands, but Tosfos says it was a siege for 3 years, there was a hunger, it was already clear that Yerushalayim's fate, wasn't so good. So Yerushalayim is given over into your hands. You must be able to become a king. What's his raya? What's his proof? He brought a pasuk. Says that the Levonoin will fall in the hands of a mighty person. It says ve'ein adir ela melech. The term adir, a mighty person, refers to a king. The pasuk that says his mighty one will be from him, which refers to a king. Levonin, Lebanon, is a reference to the Beis HaMikdash. As we have in this week's parasha, Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to see Eretz Yisrael. Levonin means the Beis HaMikdash. So Rashi says Levonin comes from the word Lavon, that the Beis HaMikdash is Malben Avaneseim Shal Yisrael. It whitens, it takes away the sins of Eden, it makes them white, it purifies them. So the pasuk says, the Eibush would only allow the Beis HaMikdash to be destroyed, to be given over in the hands of a king. So it says that's the first thing. It must be they're going to become a king. And then he says, "The Kamrusi Malka na Maila Kasas Lagaboy." He says, "This that you said that if I'm a king, why didn't I come to you until now?" He says, "Ad ha'idna, until now, but Inyoney Tisha lo shavkina." And he said, these warmongers amongst us didn't let me go out to you. So Aspasianus tells Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai like this. He says, Amar Lei, he asks him, he tells him, if you have a barrel of honey and there's a snake that's interested in the honey, so he's around the barrel. So there's a snake there, so obviously the snake is there for the honey, but the presence of the snake is posing a danger to the people in the house. So you have to get rid of the snake now. So what should you do? He says, wouldn't you break the wall? Wouldn't you break the barrel in order to get the snake away? Break the barrel, let the honey, whatever, spill out, and then the honey and the snake will just go away. So that's the way to get rid of the snakes. He was trying to say, why didn't you destroy the walls of the city, and in order to throw out these biryonim, these war hungry people from amongst you, and you should be able to come to us to make peace. So Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai didn't answer. Ishtik became silent. So Rav Yosef and other people say Rabbi Akiva said on Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, the pasuk, the Eibush sometimes causes smart people that they go backwards, they lose their wisdom. Their wisdom, their understanding becomes foolish. They lose their wisdom. Why? Because he could have answered him, he could have said no. The eitzah is not, the best thing to do is not to break the barrel. The best thing to do is to get a tweezers, to get someone that is able to figure out a way of holding on to the snake and getting him away. And you kill the snake, and the barrel you keep intact. In other words, why should you break the barrel and lose all the honey just because there's a snake? There's a way to get the snake away without destroying the barrel of honey. That would be the optimal solution. So similarly, could have said the optimal solution wasn't to destroy the walls of Yerushalayim. The optimal solution was they were trying to find a way. Maybe they could get rid of the biryonim and the city should remain standing, the walls of the city should remain standing, and they will be able to make peace with the Romans. But he did not answer that. The Eibush made that he should remain silent. And the Gemara continues with what happens. It says, as this was going on, a messenger came from Rome. He told Aspasianus that the emperor in Rome died, and the Chashivi Deroimi, the important people of Rome, the Senate, whoever it was, they decided to make you the head, to make you the emperor. So, when he heard the news, it was the middle, he was wearing shoes, he had one shoe on, one shoe off. So, he wanted to put on the other shoe, the other shoe couldn't go on anymore, it's too small. He wanted to take off the shoe that was on the other foot. It didn't come off. Amar Mai Hai, so he was wondering, he says, what's going on over here? Leil Tisha, he says, don't worry, don't be nervous. He says, Shmua Toiva Asyalach, you heard good news. Shmua Toiva Tadashanetz, I'm hearing good news, fattens a person's bones. He said, you heard the news, you became the emperor, so your bones became fat, so your legs stretched, so the shoe that was on got stuck. The other shoe is now too small to be put on. He said, okay, what should he do now? He can't remain forever with one shoe on, one shoe off. Alamaita Kante, what's the solution? So he told him, he says, what's your solution? He says, he says, have a person that you really don't like, let him walk in front of you. The same way hearing good news fattens the body, fattens the bones. When you have a humble spirit, something that makes a person feel uncomfortable, it dries up his bones. So if you want to counteract the effect of the good news that you heard they became the emperor, so find somebody they don't like, that you really don't like his presence, that he should walk by you and will counteract that effect. Okay, so the Gemara says, Aved Hachi Ayel, he did that, and the other shoe was now able to fit on. So he says, if you're so smart, why didn't you come? He realized that Rabbi ben Zakkai was smart, and he also realized that he told him that his prediction became true, he became a king. So he says, why didn't you try to make peace until now? And so he told him, Amar Leil, he said, didn't I already answer you that the Biryonim didn't let? Amar Leil, Namri, said, I also answered you. I don't hold that as a good enough reason. Could have destroyed the walls. He says, I'm going now to Rome. I became the emperor, and I'm going to send someone else to carry on with the siege on Yerushalayim. He says, ask me something and I'll give you. So Amar Leil asked him for three things. He says, he asked him to spare the city of Yavna, not to destroy Yavna, not to kill the Chachamim of Yavna. The Sanhedrin was done in Yavna. Not to kill the family of Rabbi Gamliel, who were descendants of David HaMelech. And he also asked them for doctors to heal Rabbi Tzaddik. So Rabbi Yosef, other people say Rabbi Akiva said about him, Meishiv, the same pasuk the mother brought earlier, Meishiv Chachamim Mocher V'daitem Yisachah. David sometimes causes smart people that their wisdom turns away. Why? Because the boy l'meimer Leil Shavkinu had a zimna. Rabbi ben Zakkai should have used out the opportunity to ask Aspasianos that he should maybe give the Jewish people one more chance. He shouldn't destroy Yerushalayim at all. So, but he didn't ask him from that. He asked him these other three things. And the Gemara explains why didn't Rabbi ben Zakkai ask for these three things. So the Gemara says, he said maybe to go so far that after 3 years of a campaign trying to conquer Yerushalayim, he's going to all of a sudden just give it up. He felt that might be too much to ask. And if he'll ask him too much, he won't get anything. He won't even get a small favor, right? If you ask too much, you can get nothing. Okay, so the Gemara says, Azul Shadre Latitus, so fine, so he agreed to these three things. He didn't kill the family of Rabbi Gamliel, didn't kill Yavna, but he also sent doctors to heal Rabbi Tzaddik. How did the doctors heal Rabbi Tzaddik? Already mentioned that he fasted 40 years. It says, the first day they gave him to drink water in which they soaked shells of wheat. The next day they gave him to drink water in which they soaked thick shells of wheat. It had some flour also, wasn't just a shell, it had some flour attached to it as well. The next day they gave him to drink water that had some flour inside. So they slowly got his stomach once again used to food. Until slowly his stomach opened up, stretched more and more, he was able to eat. Bran, okay, the bran is the shell, is also considered the shell of wheat. Says the Gemara, Azul Shadre Latitus Harasha. So Aspasianos went back to Rome and he sent Titus Harasha to conquer the Yerushalayim, the Beis HaMikdash. The Gemara brings a pasuk, a pasuk that says that the Goyim will say, where is the Eibishter? Where is the tzur, the rock, the protector that the Yidden took refuge in, that the Yidden were protected with? So the Gemara says that Titus Harasha, this is a reference to Titus. Titus was the one who said this, he cursed, he spoke very chutzpahdik to the Eibishter. He said, where is the Eibishter? He said, I'm going to fight the Eibishter. Also, what did he do? He wanted to show the Eibishter Kvayochel that he's going to fight him, that he's going to overcome him. Says Tafa Zaina Biyadev Nichlas Beis Kodesh HaKadoshim. He took a Zaina in his hand. He went into the Kodesh HaKadoshim. V'tzia Sefer Torah v'avra la'aver. He opened the Sefer Torah and he sinned with her on the Sefer Torah. Then he took V'not al Sayaf. V'gideras HaParoiches. He took a sword and he punctured the Paroiches that was in front of the Kodesh HaKadoshim. V'nasa Neis. A miracle happened by Yadam Vatzvus V'yoytze, and blood started squirting out. He thought the Eibishter wanted him to think Vayochel as if he killed the Eibishter. So why did the Eibishter allow him to do it? So Tisha says the Eibishter wanted to show how hard the Eibishter considers the Churban Beis HaMikdash, that it's as if Kilo the Eibishter was being pierced. Agaponim. Some people explain that there was blood. They used to hit the Paroiches on Yom Kippur. They used to spray blood on the Paroiches. The Kohen Gadol used to spray blood. So this blood, which is dried up, there was a miracle that happened, that the blood, became wet again and sprayed out. Either way. Shneben, as the pasuk says, "Shoagu seirerecha v'kerev mayadecha samu oisoisam oisois." It says, "Seirerecha," those that oppress you, scream out, "V'kerev mayadecha," within the place where you meet with the Yidden. In other words, that the goyim titus scream out against the Eibishter in the Beis Hamikdash. Samu oisoisam oisois. They thought that their signs are a sign. In other words, they thought that the sign that the Eibishter was showing them, as if the Eibishter was, so to say, killed, is real. Hitler said, "Whose blood is this?" Must be, Hashem doesn't have a body, but in his corrupt mind, he said, "This must mean that I killed Hashem." Okay. Says the Gemara, Abba Chanan brings a pasuk. It says, "Who is amongst you somebody that is mighty, that's strong?" He explains that this refers to the story of Titus, because the Eibishter showed a very powerful strength of restraint. That you hear the cursing of that wicked person and you remain silent. So the certain strength of letting the Eibishter allowed Titus to roam freely in the Beis Hamikdash to do whatever he wanted, and he didn't do anything. Shiva Rabbi Shmuel taught another similar teaching on the verse. It says, "Who is amongst you in the mighty Hashem?" But the word Bo'elim, the mighty ones, could also be read as Bo'elimim, amongst those that are mute. The Eibishter, so to say, could keep himself silent more than anyone else. There's even the cases where human beings, so to say, somebody's getting him under the skin and he has no choice but to respond. The Eibishter didn't do anything. Also, what did Titus continue to do? He took the Paroiches after he pierced it. He made it like a colander, like a big sieve, like a big basket. He took all the vessels of the Beis HaMikdash and he put it in the Paroiches, and he put it on a boat, and he went on the Mediterranean Sea that connects Eretz Yisrael to Rome. To go praise himself, boast in the city in Rome, made a whole parade. Now look what I did. Shnemer, like it says, it says, I saw the Shoyim which are buried, which are coming from a holy place, and they will be forgotten in the city what they did. That's a pasuk in Koheles. But you could interpret the pasuk by reading it slightly different. Instead of saying buried, you could read the word gathered together, that the Rishoyim are coming with vessels that are gathered together. Instead of reading that they were forgotten, you could read it that they praised themselves. That in other words, that Titus was coming from a holy place with the Kalim of the Beis HaMikdash gathered together, and he was boasting in the city in Rome, and he made a whole parade, see what he was able to accomplish. Some people say that you could interpret the word kvurim literally buried, because even things that were hidden, that those kelim of the Beis HaMikdash were hidden away, they also became revealed to him. Rashi says the money of the Yidden that was hidden away became revealed to him, became Eibusher made that he should be able to get access to it, and he took it to Rome. So when he was in the boat, so a storm erupted at sea and threatened to sink the boat. Amar, he said, it appears to me that the Eibishter, the strength of the Eibishter is only in water. But Paroi, the Eibishter drowned in the Yamsuf. But Sisra was a general, story in Tanakh, the general of Canaan. Also his army was drowned in the water. Also, so he also is trying to drown me in water. In other words, we're trying to say, when I was in Eretz Yisrael, in the Beis HaMikdash, the Eibishter didn't do anything. All of a sudden, now when I'm at sea, that's when he's trying to hurt me. He says, maybe the Eibishter is only powerful in water. So he says, if the Eibishter is taka strong, he says, if he's mighty, let him go up to dry land and fight with me there. We're speaking obviously very arrogantly to the Eibishter. So a voice from heaven came out and said to him, Rasha ben Rasha, Rasha, the son of a Rasha, ben b'noi shleis of a Rasha, descendant of Esav of Rasha. Birya kala yeshli b'elam, I have a very light creature in my world. V'yitush shma, it's called the Yitush. Yitush is a mosquito or a similar type of creature. Amai karila birya kala, why is it called the light creature? The ma'alna isla mapkana lesla, because it only eats, but it doesn't have to go to the bathroom. Nothing comes out of it. So it's very lower degree level of a creation. It says, Aleli Abosha, go up to dry land, v'tasim mulchama. No, if you want to fight with me, you don't have to fight with me. Try to fight with my smallest creature. So Aleli Abosha, when Titus came up on dry land, he came into Rome, a mosquito came and went into his nostril. For 7 years, the mosquito ate at his brain. Yom Echad, and obviously he wasn't very comfortable, it wasn't a picnic. Yom Echad, one day, have a kacholaf above the beinafcha. He was passing by a smith, and the smith was banging with a hammer. Shama kol zafta. The mosquito heard the sound of the hammer, ishtik. So it stopped, it got frightened, stopped pecking at his brain. Amar Iket Akanda says, I finally got a solution to my problem. I'll have, a hammer banging away in front of me. Kol yoyim ma'ason afcho mochel kame. So every day he would get a smith, that the smith should bang in front of him. If the smith was a non-Jew, he would give him 4 zuz. The Yisrael, who was a Jewish smith, he told him, for you, your payment is that you see your enemy suffering. That's good enough for you. For 30 days he did this, and it worked. After 30 days, even the dash. But the mosquito already got used to it, and it didn't help anymore. Tani Amar Rabbi Pinchas ben Aruva, we learned in the Brayis, Rabbi Pinchas ben Aruva said, I was amongst the great people of Rome. When Titus died, they wanted to see what was in his brain. So they smashed open his brain. They found a mosquito the size of tzipor drur. Some people say it's a bird called a house sparrow, some type of bird. Mishkol shnei sloim. They weighed about 2 sloim. Let's say it's about 1.3 ounces. Masnisatan, another brayso, Kigoizel ben Shon was like a dove that's 1 year old. Mishkol shnei litrin. They weighed about 12 ounces. Amar Abayi says, Naktinon piv shal nechoishes, tzipurnim shal barzel. Abayi said, we have a tradition that its mouth was as powerful as copper, and its nails, its claws, were as powerful as iron, as metal. You have a kamayis when Titus was dying. So Amar Lahu, so he told the people, the Romans, He says, I want you to burn my body and to spread the ashes of my body on all 7 oceans. In order that the God of the Jewish people shouldn't be able to find me and he shouldn't be able to judge me. If my body is gone with the wind, scattered throughout 7 oceans, the Eibush, so to say, won't be able to get to him. Okay, the mother will say that the plan didn't work as well as he thought, as we'll soon see. The mother says, Unklis bar kleinikus bar achse de titus havo. Unklis bar kleinikus, some people say this is the famous Unklis from Targum Unklis. He was the nephew of Titus. His mother was Titus' sister. He wanted to become a ger tzedek, but before he became a ger, he wanted to get advice. Is this a good thing, a good investment to make? So also aske Titus binegida. So through using the kishuf of Oiv, he brought up the spirit of Titus. Amrlei man chashiv ba'am. He asks him who's considered chashiv, prestigious in the world upstairs. Amrlei Yisrael, said the Jewish people. Ma'olid bukibu. He said, should I join them? Was it a good idea? Amrlei, he says, rely on the fish. There's too many mitzvahs. There's too many halachas and things. It's too much for you. You won't be able to fulfill all of them. He says, he says, if you want to become important in this world, he says you could fight them, oppress them, and then you'll become someone influential. Why? The pasuk says that those that oppress the Jewish people became ahead, became great, and the Chachamim interpret this verse to mean whoever oppresses the Jewish people becomes great. One simple explanation is the Eibush doesn't want the Jewish people to be oppressed by lowly people. So usually the oppressors of the Jewish people are very chashuv. They want to become great, oppress them. Okay, so he asks him, what is your punishment up there? So he answers him, the pasuk anafshe. I get punished with the very own punishment that I decreed upon myself. It says, every day they gather my ashes from the 7 oceans. They reconstitute my body. They judge me. And they burn my body once again. And they scatter the ashes in all 7 oceans. Says the Gemara further on this story of what Unklis was doing. He went and he brought up the spirit of Bilam through witchcraft, through the witchcraft of Oiv, to bring up the spirits of the dead. We asked him, who's chashuv? Who's important in the world upstairs? Yisrael, says the Jewish people. Ma'olid bukibu, he said, should I join them? He says, no, absolutely not. Do not seek out their peace and their welfare all their days. He says, what is your punishment? He's burning in hot shichva zera, in hot semen. Why? Because he caused the Yidden to sin with the daughters of Moav. So measure for measure, he's being punished with it. He brought up with the spirit of Kishav, he brought up the spirit of Yashka. So he says, who is Chashiv up there in the world to come? Upstairs, Amalei Yisrael, answering the Jewish people. Ma'olad bukibu, he said, should I join them? So Amalei answers him, Tevasam Dreish, Rasam Lei Sidreish. He said, they should only seek out their good, do not seek out their bad. Kol hanegeya bohen, kilo negeya b'vava, saying whoever touches them as if they're touching Hashem's pupil of his eye. Hashem's eye. So Amalei dinei dehu gavra b'mai. He says, what is your punishment? Amalei b'tsoyerei tacha. Says that he's burning in hot soya. The Amar Mar kol amali al divrei chachamim nidei b'tsoyerei tacha. The chachamim say whoever laughs on the words of the chachamim is punished that he is burning in hot soya. So his sin started off at least that he was laughing, going against the words of the Chachamim. So this is what he was punished with. So the Gemara says, Tochazi, Mabim Peshe Yisrael, and Nevi'u Meso'elam Evdi Avodah Zarah. So look at, see the difference between Yashka, the sinners of Israel, and Bilam. Bilam was a Navi. He was a prophet from the nations of the world. But nevertheless, even after he died and he's burning away, he remains with his hatred to the Jewish people. He says, do not seek out the welfare of the Jewish people. But Yashka, despite everything he did, and whatever it is, but Akaponim, he's a Yid. You know, he says, don't touch the Yidden. Says the Gemara, Tani, we learned in the Brais, Amar Abelazar, Boyu Reik, HaMegdela Koicha Shal Bushta Shrei Siach HaKadosh Baruch Has Bar Kamsa Vechrif Has Beisa V'Sarav V'Seichadra. Abelazar said, come and see how powerful, how great is the power of embarrassment. Because the fact, in other words, the Eibusher helped Bar Kamsa to carry through with his plan and to destroy the Beis HaMikdash and burn the Beis HaMikdash. Why? Because he was embarrassed publicly. So we see here the importance of not letting, being careful with another person's honor, not to embarrass him. Okay, so this is all the first story that we started off with, the first incident, how the Yerushalayim was destroyed because of Kamsa and Bar Kamsa. The Gemara also mentioned before two other incidents. The Gemara said, that the area of Tur Malka, which means Haramelech, the mountain of the king, was destroyed because of a hen and a rooster. So what is that story? The Gemara says, the meaning they had in Tur Malka was that when a chassan and a kala would get married, they would have a hen and a rooster walking in front of them. So it's like a siman that the couple should multiply, should have children like chickens. Chickens lay eggs every day. So it's a siman of a lot of children, a big mishpacha. So that was their minig. One day there was a group of Romans, soldiers passing by, and there was a chasna going on, and the Romans wanted chicken for supper, whatever it was, and they took these chickens. There was a chasna going on, you had a hen and rooster walking in front of a chasna and kala, and the Romans took the hen and rooster. So the Gemara says, the Yidden got so upset, and they didn't realize that this is a big danger. They should have just let it go. Instead, they beat up the Romans. So they came and told the emperor that the Jewish people rebelled against you. So the emperor came to fight, to go, to Tur Malka. So amongst them they had an individual who was called Bar Deroima, which literally means he came from the south, that he was very strong. The Eibusher gave him a very powerful gevura. He was able to jump a mil. A mil is like a kilometer, like a little bit more than a half a mile, and kill them. He was able to run into the enemy's camp and kill them. Very powerful. So the whole army wasn't able, with this one guy, was able to decimate, they weren't able to overcome him. So Shakli Kesel Tage Vaisvayara, the emperor took his crown and he put it on the ground. And he said to the Eibusher, Amari Bani Dal Makole, master of the whole world, if it's good in your eyes, don't give over that person, meaning himself, him and his whole kingdom in the hand of one person. It's too much of an embarrassment. If he loses the war, he loses the war. He doesn't want that it should be one person, that his whole army is decimated by one person. So the Gemara says, the Gemara says what happened? Bar Deroima, his mouth caused him to stumble. Why? Bar Deroima became too self-conscious. He became too self-reliant. And he told the Eibusher, tells the Eibusher, you could leave us alone. You don't have to join us in battle. We can take care of this ourselves. Have enough might and strength. It's okay. So that wasn't very good, and because of that, we'll see that he was killed. The Gemara asks a question, David Nami Amar Hachi, but this is a pasuk in Tillim. David HaMelech also said it. So the Gemara says, David asmui kamasma. David didn't say it as a statement. No, Eibishter, we don't need you. David said it as a question. Is it possible? How is it that you're not helping us? Is it possible that you're not helping us? But he said it as a statement, that we're okay, we're strong enough, thank you very much, but no thanks, we're able to take care of this ourselves. So all the Beis HaKisei, so he went to the bathroom, and also that koine shamte lekarkashi v'noch nafshi. As he was in the bathroom, so a snake came in from underneath, and it pulled out his karkash to the bottom of his stomach, and he died. So Omar, the emperor, saw it happen. The emperor realized that his prayers were accepted by Hashem. So the emperor said, Hoil v'srachish li nisa hazimna ishavkinu. He said, since a miracle happened, I'm going to give them one more chance. He realized the Eibusher didn't, made sure that he's not going to be embarrassed. He's not going to lose the war in the hand of one person. He said, I'll leave them go this time. Shavkinu v'azal. So he left them and he went. So Izdakor, so the Jewish people in Tur Malka, they leaped for joy. They decided to celebrate. V'achlu v'shasu. They started eating and drinking. V'adliku shragin. They were lighting candles. Adis chazi b'lyenu de gushpanka b'rochik milah. There was so much light that somebody that had an image on his ring was able to see it in the nighttime, even if he was a kilometer away, was able to see the image to the light of the candles. So Amar, the emperor, got very angry at this. And when he saw how the Jewish people were rejoicing, he says, Mechta kachadu b'Yehudai. So the Jewish people are rejoicing on my downfall. Hadar asa alai. So he went back at them, and this time, Rahman al-Islan, he killed them out. Amr Abbas, he said, 300,000 soldiers with outstretched swords came into Tur Malka. They were killing there for 3 days and 3 nights. And because it was a mountain, so people weren't able to see what was going on the other side. So you had some Jews who were being killed while on the other side of the mountain, other Jews were still celebrating. They didn't realize what was going on. There's a pasuk in Eicha that says the Eibusher swallowed up and did not have mercy on all the dwelling places of Yaakov. When the oven came from Eretz Yisrael, he said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, these are 600,000 cities that Yanai HaMelech had in Har HaMelech. The Amar Rav Yehuda Rabas Ravasi Shishim Ribe Yoris Hoyle Yanai HaMelech Bahar HaMelech. Rav Yehuda said in the name of Ravasi there were 600,000 cities that Yanai HaMelech had in Har HaMelech. Each city had as many people as those that left Mitzrayim, 600,000 people. Besides 3 cities that had twice the amount of those that left Mitzrayim, which means 1,200,000 people. A 1,400,000. So he says, Elohim, what are their names? Says Kfar Bish, Kfar Shechlaim, Kfar Dechraya. The 3 cities that had twice the amount of 600,000 were called Kfar Bish, Kfar Shechlaim, and Kfar Dechraya. The Gemara will explain the names. Kfar Bish, Tlayavi Beisel Ushpisa. Kfar Bish means a bad village. Why were they called bad? Because they didn't have Achnas Esarchim. They didn't give their house for guests. Kfar Shechlaim, the village of Shechlaim had this name. Why Shahisa Parnasasim in Shechlaim? Because their Parnasa came from Shechlaim. Shechlaim is a certain type of greenery herb that grows. It's called cress in English, and this grew over there, and this is how they had Parnasa from. Kfar Dechraya, the village of Dechraya, Amr Rabbi Yochanan, the village of Dechraya means the village. Dechraya means Zecharim, male, boys. Amr Rabbi Yochanan, Shoyne Shesayim Yod Zecharim Tchila. Rabbi Yochanan said in this village, the nature was that the women would first give birth to male boys, and that the last member of the family that was born was a girl, and then they would stop having children. So it comes out, if you make a cheshbon, there's 600,000 times 600,000, besides 3 cities that had 1,200,000, it comes out to be more than 360 billion. The whole world population today is 7-8 billion. Many Mefarshim say that the Lav Dafka, the Gemara, should be understood on a very literal level, that you had exactly this amount of people. But it means 600,000 is a number that, one simple way of understanding is 600,000 is a number that represents a certain ribui, a great amount. The Chachamim, when they use the number 600,000, sometimes not in the literal sense, but to describe a huge amount of people. So Mechzedek, as the Maimon explains it up Yechsidis, but Akoponim. But the point is, there was a lot of people over there, and they were all killed out by this story. Why? Because of a small kleinigkeit, because of a hen and a rooster. Says the Gemara, Amar Ula said, Ula said that I saw that place, and it can't even hold 600,000 sticks. Such a tiny area, you can't even put in 600,000 sticks. So there was a tzadiki, somebody that didn't believe in Torah Shabbal Peh. So he told Rabbi Chanina, he said, you see, you chachamim, you lie. You know, you'd say a Maisa, the 600,000 cities have 600,000 people. This area is so small, it can't even have 600,000 sticks. So he said, no. He said that Amrlei Eretz Tzvi Ksibba, says Eretz Yisrael, the pasuk calls Eretz Tzvi. Eretz Tzvi has a number of interpretations. One interpretation means that the land of Eretz Yisrael, the physical earth, is compared to a deer. The same way a deer, the skin of a deer, cannot contain its meat. In other words, if you would kill a shecht deer and take off the skin will never be able to fit back on. As long as the deer is alive, the skin of the deer stretches with him to contain its meat. Once you take off the deer of the skin, it shrinks. So he was trying to say that Eretz Yisrael is the same way. It's like a nace, a constant nace that Eibusha made in the nature of Eretz Yisrael, that the more Yidden there are, after Eretz Yisrael Bizman Sheyeshin La, the more Yidden dwell in Eretz Yisrael Ravcha. The physical earth, so to say, expands. When the Yidden don't live in Eretz Yisrael, so the physical earth shrinks. Says the Gemara now another story regarding another area, another city. The Gemara says, Rav Minyumi bar Chilkiya, Rav Chilkiya bar Tuvia, Rav Huna bar Chia, these 3 Chachamim, Havayasvi Gabi Adadi were sitting together. Amri, they said, the Ika de Shmiel le Milsam Kfar Schania Shom Mitzrayim Leima. That if anyone knows any story about the area, the place in Mitzrayim, a city in Egypt called Kfar Sechania, let him say, were they tzaddikim, weren't they tzaddikim? So the Gemara says that each one said a story. The Gemara says, Pasach Adonai of Amr, one of them started speaking and he said, there's a story with a Arus and Arusase. There was a Chasana and a Kala that were already that she was Mekudeshes, right? We know that Api Allah, there's 2 stages of marriage. There's the Kiddushin, which is giving the ring, and then there's the Nisuin, which you have the Chuppah and so on, the Ksuba and the Yichud. So she had the Kiddushin, she just didn't have a Ksuba. And they both came from this city, Kfar Sechai, they were captured by the Goyim. The Goyim decided to marry them off one to another. So Amrullah, so she told him, said, please don't touch me. I don't have a ksuba from you. He didn't touch her until the day that he died. When he passed away, Amrullah, and this woman told the other Yidden that were there, you should eulogize this person, because this person overcame his Yetzer Hara more than Yosef HaTzadik. When it came to Yosef HaTzadik, his Nisayan, his test was one time. Here the test was every single day. Furthermore, Yosef didn't stay with her in the same bed. Here they had to share the same bed. They had to sleep in the same bed. They didn't have another bed. Furthermore, he says, V'ilu Yosef lav ishtoi, v'ishtoi. Moreover, Yosef wasn't his wife. She was the wife of Potiphar, was Eishes Ish. But here, this woman was technically, al pi Torah, she was his wife. Just he didn't have a ksuba. So, but nevertheless, he didn't live with her. Says the Gemara another story from this city. Pasach Idach V'Amar, another one of the Chacham said a story regarding the city. Ma'asav Amdu Arboy Mudiyas B'Dinar. There's one time that there were 40 measurements of wheat. They were able to buy with 1 dinar. Nechser Ashar Mudya Achas. And then the wheat came a drop more expensive. Instead of being able to buy 40 measurements with a dinar, you're only able to buy 39. So they realized that someone must have done an Aveda in this city that caused the price to go up. They found the father and the son that lived with the Naira Murasa, with a woman that was Mukadesha to someone else in Yom Kippur. They brought them to Basin and they stoned them. They killed them. And the gate, the price went back to the way it was. Which means that it was only this Aveda that the whole city had. When this Aveda was corrected, so the price of wheat went back to normal. Then there was another story. Another story that happened in that city. There was a person that wanted to divorce his wife. He was afraid to divorce her because the ksuba was very big. There was a lot of money involved in the ksuba, and if he would divorce her, he would have to pay. So he decided to try to get her away a different way. So what did he do? He went and he invited his shushvinin, his friends, ve'achilon, ve'hishkon. He gave them to eat and to drink. Shikron, he got them shikr. V'shkivan omitachas, he put them on one bed, and he put his wife on the bed as well. He took the white of an egg and put it between them. The white of an egg looks like shikva zera. And he put it between them so that it should have some appearance that they sinned with her. He brought witnesses that saw this. He came to Basin and he wanted to claim that his wife sinned with them. And if the Basin will accept the claim, so the halach is that the wife goes out without a ksuba. So he'll be able to divorce his wife without having to have to pay the ksuba. So there was one elder by the Basin from the students of Shammai Azokin. His name was Bava Ben Buta. He says they have a tradition from Shammai Azokin that there's a way how you can tell the difference if something is the white of an egg or if it's shichva zera. It says loivim beitza soiled min ha'or, shichva zera doicha min ha'or. Says if you put it by fire, the white of an egg would congeal. The shichva zera would melt, would disintegrate into the garment. But they checked and they found that it wasn't shichva zera, it was pasha the white of an egg. Basin, they brought him to Basin, Vilku, and they gave him malchus, they gave him lashes, and they realized the whole spiel he wanted to do, and they forced him to pay the ksuba. So Amalei Abai Rav Yosef, Sabai said to Rav Yosef, if these people were such big tzaddikim, why were they punished? The first two stories, you definitely see how they were tzaddikim. The third story, the Farshim discussed how they were tzaddikim. One thing the Marsha says, that the fact that they were ready to divorce the woman just because they were Eidim, they didn't see any actual sin, they just saw that there was something that looked like shikva zera on the bed, shows that they were extra careful. Whatever it is, Mefarshim tried to explain different ways how you see they were tzaddikim also in the third story. But either way, we see that this city was full of righteous people. So why were they punished? Why were they destroyed? Why were they killed? Amalei answered, Mishum Dlei Abul al Yerushalayim. There's one sin that they had, which is that they did not mourn the destruction of Yerushalayim. T'chsiv simchu as Yerushalayim v'gilu v'kol ha'yaveha. It says, rejoice with Yerushalayim, all those that love her. Sisu itamosis kalam isablam Allah. All those that mourn for her will be rejoiced. In other words, the Eibusha says that those that mourn for Yerushalayim, the Eibusha will reward them, and they'll merit to see the coming of Mashiach, they'll rejoice. But if somebody doesn't mourn the destruction of Yerushalayim, so it shows it bothered them, it doesn't bother him. The Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, so therefore they were punished. Now the Gemara says the third story. The Gemara says the Shaka the Rispak Chad of Beiter, because of a wall of a woman's carriage, the city of Beiter was destroyed. To have a nehigig, you have a misli dinuka shasli arza, yinuksa shasli ternisa. The minig in Beiter was when a baby boy was born, they would plant a cedar tree. When a girl was born, a baby girl was born, they would plant a pine tree. When the boy and the girl would get married, they would cut these trees, they would cut the cedar tree each boy, they knew which tree it was, they would cut his tree, they would cut her tree, and they make a chuppah out of both trees. One day the daughter of the emperor was passing through, and the wall of her carriage broke. So the Romans, katsu arza, v'aylo, they cut off it. They saw nearby a cedar tree, so they cut it down to make a wall for the carriage. So so the Yidden were so upset. How could it be? You're chopping down the tree that belongs to this baby. You're not going to be able to make a chuppah for him. So they beat up the soldiers. Also, amru leil Tisha Bav. So they told the emperor that the Jewish people rebelled against you. So he came to Beitar and he killed the Yidden in Beitar. The Gemara now discusses the Churban Beitar, which is one of also the 5 things that took place on Tisha Bav. Says the Gemara, God the pasuk that says that the Eibusha cut off with his anger all the horn, all the strength, the power of the Jewish people. Some Rab Zera, Rab Omer, Rab Yechanan, Rab Zera said named Rab Omer, Rab Yechanan, Elu Shmoinim Elef Karnim Luchama Shnichmus Lekrach Beitar B'Shasha Lekchua. Says this pasuk is referring to the destruction of Beitar. There were 80,000 Karnim Luchama. Karnim Luchama means that leaders of troops, not the actual troops, but there's a general, whatever you call, whatever exactly his level in the army is, but somebody that he blows a horn to gather the troops, to rally the troops to fight. So you had 80,000 Karnei Milchama, leaders of troops, that went into the city of Beitar when they captured it. And you had many more regular foot soldiers. And they killed men, women, and children until their blood flowed all the way until the Yam HaGadol, Mediterranean Sea. You might think that Beitar was right near the sea. What it says, no, the Chayka Meal was a meal, like a little bit more than a half a mile away. But there was so much blood that it flowed into the Yam HaGadol. Tani, we learned in the Brais, Rabbi Lezer HaGadol says, Shnei Necholim Yesh Vikas Yadayim. There are 2 rivers in the area called Bikas Yadayim. Echad Moishech Elach, Echad Moishech Elach. One goes this way, one goes the other way. The Shiru Chachamim Shnei Chalokim Mayim Vechadam. The Chachamim estimated that at the time that the people of Beitar were killed, in that area there was 2/3 water and 1/3 blood of the Yidden. The Masnis Satan and Abraisa, we learned Sheva Shan and Batzrev the Kachavim Kameim and Daman Shal Yisrael B'lei Zavel. For 7 years, the Goyim that lives in that vicinity were able to harvest their vineyards. They didn't have to put any fertilizer to help their vineyards grow, because the blood of the Jewish people, filled up the ground, so saturated the ground. There's so much blood that for 7 years they didn't have to use fertilizer. Rabbi Chia Bar Ravin said, holding now by page 5, in the name of Rabbi Shua ben Karcha, this story is now the Gemara speaking about the first Beis HaMikdash, the destruction of the first Beis HaMikdash. There was one elder from the men of Yerushalayim that told me that Bikazu in this valley, the chief executioner of Nebuchadnezzar, who destroyed the Beis HaMikdash, he killed Masayim Vachas Eseri Riboy. 2,110,000 Yidden. In Yerushalayim he killed 940,000 Jews, 11 achas, on one stone, until their blood flowed and it touched the blood of Zchariah. There was a Navi Zchariah that lived during the first Beis HaMikdash, and the Yidden were worshipping the king. They were bowing down to Yoyosh, the king, making him an Avodah Zarah. And Zechariah ben Yehoyada, he was a Navi, he told the Yidden in the Beis HaMikdash, he was giving them Musar for worshipping the king, and he told them the Eibush is going to destroy the Beis HaMikdash, and the Yidden got angered him and they killed him in the Beis HaMikdash. And this happened over 100 years before the destruction of the first Beis HaMikdash. But as we'll soon see, the Eibush made a nace that the blood of Zechariah remained bubbling away for all that time. So when it was Radin killed all these Yidden, their blood came and touched the blood of Zechariah. The fulfill what the pasuk says, that blood will touch other blood. The Gemara elaborates more on the story of the blood of Zechariah. When Radin came to the Beis HaMikdash, he sees that this blood of Zechariah, so that this blood that's like bubbling, that's like hot and bubbling, it's going up. Amar Mai Hai, it caught his eye that this it wasn't a normal thing to happen. So he asked the Yidden, what is this? He said, it's blood of karbanos, animals that we brought that spilled. So I see Damiv Laidmu, so he shechted various karbanos, various animals, but he saw that the blood didn't look the same. Amar Lahu, so he told them, he said, if you'll answer me good, if not, I will comb your flesh with iron combs. So Amri says, my name Allah. So what should we tell you? There was a prophet amongst us that was giving us musar. He was, chastising us regarding matters of heaven, serving the Eibishter. And we got up on him and we killed him. And for so many years already, his blood did not find any peace. His blood is still bubbling away. His blood, he doesn't have peace. He said, I will appease the blood. He brought the big Sanhedrin and the smaller Sanhedrin, the Sanhedrin of 71 judges and 23 judges. He killed them on the blood, but the blood didn't settle down. He killed young boys and girls on it, young Bachrim and Basulis on it. It didn't settle. He brought kids from Cheder, and he killed them on the blood, and it did not calm down. So the Vazradan sells the blood, says to the blood, it says, Chaya Zechariah. It says, Chaya Zechariah, Toivim Shebehem Ibadatim. I killed the best of them. The one they should kill all the Yidden. When he said that, finally the blood stopped bubbling. So at that moment, Nevuzradan had a thought of tshuva. He said, if for killing one person, look what happened. For so many years, the sin wasn't forgiven, and the blood was bubbling away, and how many Jews had to be killed in order to atone, to calm down this blood. Says, so me that I killed all these people, if that one death wasn't atoned for, I that killed so many people, I'm definitely in bad luck. So so he ran away. He sent his house a will what to do with his possessions, and he became a ger. Tana, we learned in the Braisa, Naaman ger Toshav Haya. Naaman, the story in Tanakh, that there was a king of Aram. Naaman was a general of Aram, that he came to the prophet Elisha. Elisha healed his tzaras miraculously, and he became a ger Toshav. A ger Toshav means someone that keeps the Sheva mitzvahs, but he didn't convert to Yiddishkeit. Nevuzradan ger tzedek Haya. Nevuzradan was a ger tzedek. And the Banav shel Haman on the Torah b'Bnei Brak, from the descendants of Haman, the grandsons of Haman, there were people that learned Torah in Bnei Brak. From the Banav shel Sisra l'Amitznekes b'Yerushalayim, from the descendants of Sisra, the king of Canaan, who was one of the oppressors of the Jewish people, you had people that taught children in Yerushalayim. From the Banav shel Sancheriv l'Amdutayra b'Ram, from the descendants of Sancheriv, who exiled the 10 Shvatim, you had people, tzaddikim, talmidei chachamim, that came, that learned Torah publicly. Man inun shmaya v'avtalion. Who are they? Shmaya and Avtalion. The teachers of Hillel and Shammai were descendants from Gadim. They came from Sancheriv, and they were Nasiim, the Nasi and the Av Basin of their time. Says the Gemara, Haino Dichsiv Nasati is Doma Tzchiach Salal Biltli Yikosis. The Pasuk says this is the meaning. The Gemara says this is the meaning of the Pasuk. The Eibusha says that I place the blood of I place his blood on a stone, on the smoothness of a stone that shouldn't be covered, meaning that the Eibusha kept Zechariah's blood bubbling away for over 100 years, whatever the exact amount was, which was a nace, until the Churban Beis HaMikdash. Says the Gemara, Vaitin is a pasuk that says, "Akil kol Yaakov vayadayim midei Esav." And Yaakov Avinu came to Yitzchak. Yitzchak tells him, "Akil kol Yaakov." The voice is the voice of Yaakov, and the hands are the hands of Esav. But the Gemara interprets the pasuk to mean that the voice means a voice of outcry, of crying. How Yaakov is crying from what Esav is doing to him. And Yitzchak, when he said this, he prophesied. He saw what Esav, what the descendants of Esav, the Romans, will do to Yaakov by the destruction of Beitar. So and what they did to the Yidden in general. So the Gemara is going to interpret the pasuk into three parts. As Hakoil, Koil Yaakov. The first Koil, Zad Rayonus Kesar. This refers to Adrayonus Kesar. Shaharak Alexandri Shal Mitzrayim Shishim Riboy al Shishim Riboy, who killed in Alexandria of Egypt 1,200,000 Jewish people. Kiflaim Keitzim Mitzrayim, twice the amount of those that left Mitzrayim. Koil Yaakov, it says Koil Yaakov, and again, Zeh Aspasionus Kesar. This refers to Aspasionus Kesar. Shaharak B'krach Beitar, who killed in the city of Beitar, Arba Meyos Riboy, 4 million Jews. V'amrila Arbas Alofim Riboy. And other people say it was 40 million Jews. Vayadayim midei Esav, and the hands, the rest pasuk continues. The hands are the hands of Esav. Zu Malchus Arashah. This is the wicked kingdom, the Roman Shachrivas Batenu, destroyed the Beis Hamikdash, V'sarfes Echalenu, and burnt the Heichal of the Beis Hamikdash, V'glisonu mi'aretzenu, and exiled us from Eretz Yisrael. David Acher, another meaning tied in the pasuk, Akil Kil Yaakov. The voice is the voice of Yaakov. Ein lecha tefillah shemayel Hashem b'mizayra shel Yaakov. The voice represents tefillah. Every prayer that we see helps, that is niskabel by the Eibusha, must be that there's a yid that is davening there. And any tefillah that there is, there must be a koyach of a yid involved to make the tefillah go up to the Eibusha. Vayadayim midei Esav, in the hands of Esav. Ein lecha milchama shenitzachas she'ein b'mizayra shel Esav. There's no war that wins. Whenever there's a war that has victory, it must be that somewhere in the war someone is involved from the descendants of Esav. Because Esav was given the ability to win wars. The Gemara now goes back to the story of Kamsa Bar Kamsa. Says this is the meaning of Rabbi Elazar. Says the pasuk says b'shoit loshin, with the stick of the tongue. When the tongue strikes like a stick, you should hide. So he says this means when there's fighting that comes from the tongue through lashon hara, a person should hide because negative things could happen. Just like we find that when there was lashon hara, there was negative talk going on by Kamsa and Bar Kamsa, and he went and he said negative things about Yidden to the emperor. The base, hundreds of thousands of Jews were killed. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav Ma'idich Siv Al Naris Bavel Sham Yeshav Megam B'Chinam Zachrenu Vasin. Rav Yehuda said the name of Rav. What is the meaning of the pasuk? David HaMelech says in Tillim that on the rivers of Bavel we were sitting and crying when we remembered Sion. So David HaMelech, this is talking about the first destruction, the first Beis HaMikdash. David HaMelech lived before the building of the first Beis HaMikdash. So the Gemara says Malam Yisharoah Kadosh Baruch Hu LeDavid Churban B'Ayis Rishon Churban B'Ayis Sheni. This teaches us that the Eibusha showed David HaMelech the destruction of the first Beis HaMikdash and the destruction of the second Beis HaMikdash. Churban B'Ayis Rishon Shneimar Al Naris Bavel Shem Yoshav Negam Achino. The destruction of the first Beis HaMikdash was shown to him, as the pasuk says. David HaMelech was saying that on the rivers of Bavel we were sitting and crying, which is when the Yidden went into exile by the destruction of the first Beis HaMikdash. By Sheni Dichsiv, Zecher Hashem Ledem, Yishem Yerushalayim, Heimrim Oru Adei Soid Ba. The destruction of the second Beis HaMikdash was also shown to David, as we find another pasuk in Tillim where David HaMelech tells the Eibusha should remember for the sons of Edom, for the Romans, the day of Yerushalayim, the day that they destroyed Yerushalayim, when they said, Oru, you should raise it. In other words, raise it as destroy it until the foundation. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel v'iteim Rabami v'amar lo memasni satana. Rav Yehuda said the name of Shmuel, other people say this name of Rabami, or other people say it was from a brayso that was taught. Ma'isa v'dal meis yiladim v'yiladim shenishpu l'kalin is a story of 400 kids, boys and girls, that were captured by the Goyim by the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash, and they were being taken, I think, to Rome. L'kalin, they were being taken for immodest purposes. Hirgishu ba'atzman l'mahim is bakshin. They realized as they were being taken, for what they were being taken to Rome. Amru, they said, they asked him, if we will drown into the sea, will we merit life to come? So the most learned of the children, Darshan, he says, Amar Hashem Bashan Ashiv Ashivim Tzulesiyam. The pasuk says, Hashem says, I will return from Bashan, I will return from the depths of the sea. So he says, the word mi Bashan Ashiv, I will return from Bashan, means being Shinei Aryeh, from those that are trapped between the teeth of the lion, Ashiv, I will bring them back to me. Which from the depths of the sea means that those are drowned in the sea. So he was saying that even if they're trapped by the Romans, they're going to drown in this, and they're going to drown in the sea. The Eibusha says, "I'll bring them back to me. They'll get life in the world to come." So when the girls heard this, they all jumped into the sea. The boys now made a kal v'chomer. They said, girls that are taken for immodest purposes, it's not a good thing, but it's at least a normal thing that happens. But the boys which are being taken from Mishkav Zachar, which is B'chlal completely irregular, Allah has come. If they had Mesiras Nefesh, that they shouldn't sin, how much more so we should have Mesiras Nefesh for ourselves, that we shouldn't be taken for sin. They also fell into the sea. And regarding them, the verse says that for your sake we were killed the entire day. We were considered like sheep to slaughter. Rav Yehuda said that this pasuk is referring to the story of a woman and her 7 sons, which is commonly known as the story of Hannah and her 7 sons. The story has many versions, although some versions identified with the story of Hanukkah. Here we'll see the Gemara is identifies the story with the Roman emperor, together with the period of the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash. So there was a woman that had 7 sons. As you are the case that they brought the oldest one in front of the emperor. They told him, worship idols. They told him, Torah says, I am the Eibishter. He wasn't going to bow down to idols. So they killed him. The case that they brought the 2nd child in front of the emperor. They told him, bow down to idols. So they told him another pasuk. It says in the Torah, you should not have other gods in front of me. So they took him and they killed him. They took him out and they killed him. They brought the 3rd child. They told him, worship idols. So they told him, the Torah says, whoever worships other idols will be put to death. They took him out and they killed him. They brought the 4th child. They told him, worship idols. He told them, so the Torah says they shouldn't bow down to another god. They took him out and they killed him. They brought the 5th son. They told him, worship idols. They told him, the Torah says that the Eibusher is our God. The Eibusher is one. So they went and they killed him. They brought the 6th son. They told him, worship idols. He told them, he says, the Torah says you should know today, as clear as the day, and apply it to your heart, that Eibishter is the God in the heaven above and the earth below. There's no one else. They took him and they killed. They took him out and they killed him. They brought the next child, the seventh son. They told him, bow down to idols. It says, the Torah says, as Hashem hamarta, Hashem hamirchayim. We set aside the Eibishter as our Eibishter, and the Eibishter set us aside this day as his nation. We swore to the Eibishter that we won't exchange him for another God, and he swore to us that he won't exchange us for another nation. Cases, so the emperor said, I will throw down my ring that had the image of the king engraved on it. And you'll bow down and take it. So it will look like you're bowing down to my image. So it should appear that you're accepting upon yourself to fulfill the will of the king. It says, you don't have to bow down to idols, but at least do this for me. So he says, so he said to him, woe unto you, Caesar, woe unto you, Caesar. If you're so crazy about your own honor, much more so should I be careful about the honor of the Eibishter. So the Gemara says, Afku l'miktalei. They took him out to kill him. This is the seventh son. Amrulo imei. So his mother says, Yavu ni alei, give him to me so I can kiss him a little bit. Amrulo, she told him, Bonai, my sons, l'chu vimru Avram avichem. Says, go and tell Avram, your forefather, Ato kadata mizbeach echad. You made one mizbeach. You brought Yitzchak as a carbon. Vaniya kadati shiva mizbechos. And I made 7 mizbechos. I brought 7 children as a carbon. Afi also legad v'nofel mesa. She went up to the roof and she fell down and died. Either she committed suicide. Some people say she became crazy. She committed suicide. Whatever it was. Yatsa Baska Vamra Ema Banum Smechan, and the voice came out from heaven and said that the mother of the children is happy. She went to Elam Haba. Rabbi Shua ben Levi Yomer Zomilo Shnitla Mishmini. Rabbi Shua ben Levi says that the pasuk Yelach Irag Nechol Hayem that were killed on you the whole day refers to the mitzvah of Bris Milah. Was they give it to a small baby that's 8 days old, and sometimes he dies, but nevertheless every year does a Bris Milah. Shimon ben Lakish says that this refers to Talmidei Chachamim when they want to show the halachas of shchita. They sometimes show it on themselves, and they might end up by mistake hurting themselves, sticking the knife in their own neck. This is what it means, that for your sake we've been killed every day. They're so engrossed trying to teach Torah that they might hurt themselves. The Amar Rava said, a person should show, you could use yourself as an example for everything, but just don't try to show how to shecht on your own neck. A person shouldn't try to show shechting the clothes of shechita on their own neck, because they might end up taka shechting themselves, or to show tzaras, the different shades of tzaras a person wants to show on his skin, this shade, that shade of white. It's a sakana. By doing so, he might actually get tzaras. Rav Nachman by Yitzchak Amar El Talmidei Chachamim Shemimissen Atzman Al Divrei Torah. Rav Nachman by Yitzchak said the pasuk Yelach Irag Nechol Hayom, that for your sake we were killed every day, refers to Talmidei Chachamim who killed themselves. In other words, they deprived themselves of physical pleasures in order to learn Torah. Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish as follows the teaching of Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish. Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish in Divrei Torah Miskayim and El B'mishmei Misatzmi Alenas. Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish says that the words of Torah only last, they only penetrate a person who's ready to deprive himself from everything, like to kill himself, so to say, for them. Shnamar Zois HaTorah Adam K'Almo Spoil. It brings a pasuk. It says this is the Torah. Literally, it means this is the law of a person who dies in the tent. But it interprets it to mean that Zois HaTorah, if a person wants to acquire Torah, he has to die. He has to deprive himself of everything and only dedicate himself to the tent of Torah. Amar Rabba Bar Bachanam Rabbi Yochanan Arboim Sa'a Ketzutzei Tefillin. Holding on page 6 in Ches Amud Aleph. Rabbi Bar Bachanam said there were 40 Sa'a. Right, 40 Sa'a is smallest measurement of a mikvah. It's like 87 American gallons. So the size of 40 saw of ktsutzei tefillin. Ktsutzei tefillin means the boxes of the tefillin, without the straps, without the ritzuas, are called the ktsitza. So on the heads of those that were killed in Beitar, there was 40 saw of tefillin that they gathered together. Rabbi Yanai, Rabbi Shmuel, Omer, Shalish Kupish, Shal Arboim, Arboim. So Rabbi Yanai, in the name of Rabbi Shmuel, and the son of Rabbi Yanai, said there were 3 boxes of tefillin that they found on those that were killed in Beitar. Each one was 40 saw. Masnisa Tana, Arboim, Kupish, Shalish, Shalish. And the Braisa did it a little bit differently. There were 40 boxes, each one had 3 sin. Saw. But at any rate, we have a seeming contradiction. One place it says it was 40 saw. Another place it says it was 3 times the amount. It was 120 saw. So the Gemara says, V'loi pligi. It's not our argument. Hadareisha, hadadara. Tefillin shal rosh is 3 times. Today, our tefillin shal rosh and tefillin shal yad are the same size. But in those days, tefillin shal yad was much smaller. Why? Because tefillin shal rosh, you have to have 4 different compartments. Tefillin shal yad, you have 1 compartment. So they had the tefillin shal yad that they had in those days was much smaller. Now the Rashi explains that the tefillin shal yad is 1/3 of a tefillin shal rosh. It's not 1/4, it's really 1/3. Even though the tefillin shal rosh has 4 compartments, tefillin shal yad only has 1. But in that 1 compartment of the tefillin shal yad, you have to have all the 4 parshis of the tefillin shal rosh. So altogether it means that the shal yad ends up being 1/3 the size of the shal rosh. So the Braisa that says that it was 40 saw is talking about the shal yad. The other teaching that says it was 120 saw is talking about the shal rosh. Amar Rabasi says that in the destruction, the first Beis HaMikdash, there were 40 kabin, like about 1.5 gallons of brain. The Goyim, the Babylonians, they took Jewish babies and they smashed their heads on rocks. And there was like 1.5 gallons of brain that was found on 1 stone. Ula Amar Tisha kabin, Ula says it was like 9 kabin, a little bit more than 3 gallons. Amar Rav Kahana Vitei Shila Bar Mori. Rav Kahana said, and other people said, Shili Bar Mori said, "My Kra, what is the pasuk? Bas Bavel Ashtuda says, a daughter of Bavel who was plundered. Ashrei Sheishalom Lachloki is the one that will pay you back. Ashrei Sheyoiche is v'nipei t'sadolaych alasala. Lachoi is the one that will grab your babies and smash them on the rock." Which means that the pasuk is saying that the people of Bavel will be punished, that their babies will be smashed, the heads will be smashed on the rocks. Why? Because that's what they did to the Jewish babies. The Gemara continues, the Gemara says, Meisina Yekarim Sloim B'Paz. There's a pasuk in Eicha that says it's about the Jewish kids, the sons of Sion that are precious, Hamsuloim B'Paz, that are praised in Paz. Paz is a certain precious gold. My Musuloim B'Paz. Now what does it mean, Musuloim? That the Gemara says, if it means if it means that they were praised with gold, meaning that they had these gold ornaments made out of this gold on them. The Yeshiva Rab Shila said, there were 2 measurements of sloim, small measurements of the special gold, this pause that came into the world. One was in Rome, one was in Rome, one is the rest of the world. This gold is very, very rare. It's impossible to say that the people of Yerushalayim had so much gold of this that they used to make them ornaments for their children. So the Gemara says, it means that the children of Yerushalayim were so beautiful that they were praised, that they were even more beautiful. Musulayim B'Paz means that they were praised, that they're even more beautiful than this gold. And the Gemara says a story to highlight this. Originally, the important noblemen of Rome, they wanted that their children, their babies should be born beautiful. So they had relations, they used to take coins that are beautiful images and look at them, so that their babies that are being conceived should also be beautiful. But after the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash, afterwards, Ma'asi B'nai Yisrael, they would take Jewish children, v'asri b'karei the purayu, and they would tie them to the feet of their bed, and they had relations, because they wanted to see the image of the Jewish children, so this way their children would also be beautiful. But the Gemara said there were 2 Jewish boys that were tied to the bed when this was going on, So one tells his friend, he knew the Torah says many negative things will happen, but he couldn't find any words. He didn't know of any words the Torah says of such a crazy type of punishment, of decree, that they'll be tied to the beds for this reason. So, where's this punishment written? Normally, he says, is a pasuk that says, Gam kol choli v'chol makar she'lo yichosu v'sefer HaTorah azois. It says that even things, punishments that are not written in the Torah, the Eibush will bring upon you. It's taka not written, but the Torah itself says that certain things will happen that are not written. So Amrei Kamek Marchikna Meduchta Plan says, how far, and he never learned this pasuk. Says, how far is this pasuk from where I learned? So Amalei Inga Pusko Pag says, not too much, a page and a half. Amalei says, if I would have learned it myself, I would have known myself. I wouldn't have had to ask you. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel Mishum Rav Shimon Gamliel. Rav Yehuda said name of Shmuel, name of Rav Shimon Gamliel. My dechsiv eini oil al nafshi mikol b'nei sirid. It's a pasuk that says that my eyes, they cry so much that they make my face disgusting. I'm crying because of all the people of my city. So the Gemara says, Arba meis pati tinaikas hayu bikrach beita. There were 400, Arba meis pati knesis hayu bikrach beita. There were 400 shuls in the city of Beitar. B'chol achas v'achas hayu ba arba meis mam tinaikas. Each one had 400 teachers, malamdi tinaikas, teachers of yeshiva boys. And each one had in front of him 400 students. When the enemy would come, the Jewish kids were able to chase them out with their pointers that they would use. They were able to have so many kids, they were just able to chase them out with their pointers. When the enemy strengthened themselves and captured them, they wrapped them up with their scrolls with and they burnt them in fire. So it comes out, if you make a calculation, 400 times 400, 400 times 400, like 640 million. So again, some Mepharshim say again, this doesn't necessarily have to be understood literally that there was so many people, particularly we said earlier there was maybe 4 million or 40 million in Beitar, but not 64 million. The number 400 represents it's a certain number that means a huge amount, whatever the meaning exactly of 400 is. Talmud Rabbanan, the mother says another story. Ma'asav Rabbi Shua ben Chananya shalach l'krach gadol shabureim. Rabbi Shua ben Chananya, one of the sages that lived after the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash, went to the city of Rome, big city of Rome. Amru leitina gechad yesh beis ha'asurim yefei enayim v'toivroyik v'tzeis of sturas leital talim. He said there's one Jewish child that's in the prison that is beautiful eyes, good looking, he has beautiful curls, his hair is in curls. He went and he stood on the opening of the prison and he read a pasuk. Amar, he says, who gave the Jewish people to be stepped upon and the Jewish people should be plundered. So the child heard the beginning of the pasuk and he finished off the pasuk. So that child answered and said, was Hashem, because we sinned him and didn't want to follow his ways. And didn't listen to his Torah. Amar Rabbi Shua ben Chanani said, he said, I'm sure that this child will one day be a great sage who will teach Paskin halachas. He made an oath, he swore in the service of the Beis HaMikdash, was an expression of an oath, swearing in the service of the Beis HaMikdash. I'm not going to move from here until I'll redeem him with any price that they ask for him. Amru, they said, he didn't leave there until he redeemed them with for a lot of money. So it didn't take too long until this child, Taki, grew up to become very knowledgeable in Torah and to teach Paskin halachas. Who is it? This was the sage Rabbi Shmuel ben Elisha. Amar Rav Yehuda Yehuda said the name of Rav Ma'asav b'vnoi v'bitish Rabbi Shmuel ben Elisha. There's a story of the son and daughter of Rabbi Shmuel ben Elisha. It's a question if it's the same Rabbi Shmuel ben Elisha as before, or a different one, but either way. They were captured and they were sold to two masters. Sometime later, both masters met in a certain place. One master said, I have a slave that is none like his beauty in the whole world. And one says, no, I have a beautiful maid that is none like her beauty in the whole world. They said, it's okay. So let's make a business deal. Let's marry them up, and the children will be very beautiful, and we'll split the kids. They put them into a room to marry them off. One sat in this corner, the other one sat in that corner. And it was by night, they couldn't recognize each other. As a Shivcha, he said, the boy said, I'm a Kohen, the son of Kohen, I'll marry a maid. She said, I'm a Kohanis, the daughter of the Kohen Gadol, I'll marry a servant. The whole night they wept. When the sun came up, became light, they recognized each other. They didn't see each other. And they fell on each other's arms and they cried until they passed out, until they died, until they passed away. And on them Yirmiyah lamented, and he says, and these I cry, my eyes drips with tears. Shlakish said, there's a story with one woman, her name was Safnas Bas Pniel. Why was she called Safnas Bas Pniel? Tzafnas, Shakel Tzefin B'Yafit, Tzafyas, because she was so beautiful, everyone would look at her beauty. Bas Pniel, the daughter of Pniel, means Bita Shel Kohen Gadol, Shashimesh Lifnai V'Lifnim. Pniel means, comes from the word Lifnai V'Lifnim, inside, Kael, where Deibishter is. She was a daughter of the Kohen Gadol who used to serve in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. So she was captured by some guy. The whole night, he abused her. The next day he puts her on 7 layers of garments, and he brings her out to sell her as a servant, as a maidservant. Came a person that was very disgusting. He wanted to buy. He said, show me her beauty. Armalei said, Reika. An empty person, he says, if you want to buy, you should buy. Because there's none like her beauty in the whole world. Armalei Afal became. So nevertheless, he wants to see. So if Shita Shishachalukim, so he took off the 6 garments. Shvi Karaitim and Spal Shabefan came to the 7th garment, she ripped it and she rolled in ashes. Amro Lefanov. She said to the Eibush, the master of the world, if you didn't have mercy on us, why don't you have mercy on the sanctity of your powerful holy name? And on her, Yirmiyah lamented, and he says, Bas Ami, daughter of my nation, wrap yourself in sackcloth, and roll in ashes, she make for yourself in the personal, individual mourning, mispei tamrurim, a bitter eulogy, because suddenly the plunderer will come upon us. What means on us? It says, doesn't say on you, it says on us, meaning the Eibishter is saying, I consider it as if this plunderer came on me and on you, because the Eibishter's name was also disgraced as a result. The Gemara finishes off with another final story. Rav Yehuda said the name of Rav. What is the meaning of the pasuk that they stole a man on his house, and a man on his inheritance? So there was a story with a person who wanted to marry his teacher's wife. It wasn't his teacher that taught him Torah. He was learning carpentry. He was learning by a trade of carpenter, I think, and he wanted to marry his teacher's wife. One time, his teacher needed to borrow money from this person. So what did he do? So he said, he said, okay, send your wife to me and I'll lend her the money. He sent his wife to him. She spent with him by him 3 days, and the way it seems from the stories, he sinned with her then. And he decided to come to greet his teacher before the teacher's wife came back. So he goes to his teacher, says, he says, where's my wife that I sent you? And she didn't come back yet. Says, I sent her back right away. I heard that young kid sinned with her on the road. He says, what should I do if she sinned? He says, if you follow my advice, you should divorce her. He says, but divorcing her, she has an expensive ksuba and I can't afford the ksuba. He says, no problem. I'll lend you the money and you'll pay her ksuba. So he borrowed the money from his student and he married and he gave her a ksuba and divorced her. And the student went and married this woman. Now he owed his student. Now he was in serious debt. He borrowed money once. He borrowed money again to pay the ksuba. When the time came to pay up, he didn't have what to pay. So his student tells him, says, no, if you can't pay me, so you should serve me. Help me in my house. And that service, you'll slowly pay up your debt. So this student with his wife, was previously the wife of the teacher, was sitting and eating and drinking. Now he was forced to be their servant and to give them to drink. And there were tears falling from his eyes and going into their cups. At that time, was a decree that was made that they should be, that the Churban or whatever, I'm not sure which exactly episode of the destruction, but destruction happened because of this was the final story that put the decree into effect. Other people say that the worst sin wasn't that he had to serve his teacher and his previous wife, but that Shtei Psilos Nechad means 2 weeks and 1 candle, means a sin that he lived with his master's wife beforehand. When she was an Eishes Ish, this was the sin that finally made the decree of the Churban. David Mashiach should come now and he'll give a shir explaining the Gemara, the Mal Yusa. I hope Chayom Meil Sos and Simcha Meid and Teva.
Yechia Dinei Namreinu V'Rabbeinu Melech HaMashiach Leilam V'od. Yechia Dinei Namreinu V'Rabbeinu Melech HaMashiach Leilam V'od. Yechia